Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent and we're ready to begin a fun-filled week of Xbox everything. We have news today on what's happening with the next generation console experience for Xbox, and I know there's been a lot of leaks like that, but this one's from Jez Corden of Windows Central, and we have a full breakdown of everything from your console library to multiplayer paywalls to actually the merging of Windows and Xbox and what that will look like, and it's a lot of interesting information. But we're going to talk about our final verdict for The Outer Worlds 2, finally finished that one up, and then after that, we're going to dive into the 30% profit margins for Xbox. So a lot to go over this week. We're hearing about a partner preview coming up as well. So there's a lot to talk about this week. Get cozy, get subscribed if you're new and you're into what's going on with Xbox. And let's begin with this breakdown from Jez Corden of Windows Central on the new Xbox. He begins by writing, as many of us have come to expect, the next Xbox will indeed run full-bore Windows with a TV-optimized console-style experience layered on top. Microsoft decided to sideline its own Xbox handheld plans and go to market with the Xbox Ally in partnership with Asus this year to start gathering feedback on the experience that will essentially power the next wave of console hardware. I'm told that Microsoft still plans to make its own handheld eventually too, along the lines of this new plan. Xbox President Sarah Bond has teased a variety of first-party Xbox hardware made in partnership with AMD, but what will all of this look like? Here's where it gets a little bit interesting. Indeed, the Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X with its Xbox full-screen experience is essentially what the next Xbox will look like. It's not dissimilar to the Steam OS interface and big picture mode, which allow you to exit into full Linux at will. Similarly, the Xbox full-screen experience will allow you to exit out to full Windows if you want to, and run competing stores like Steam, Epic Games Store, Microsoft's own Battle.net, the Riot client, and indeed anything else you want. You could run Adobe Creative Cloud or Microsoft Office on the next Xbox if you choose so. Where the next Xbox will differ from a traditional Windows PC is that it will feel like a traditional Xbox console out of the box. The onboarding experience will be similar to what you get today on console, and if you choose, you can remain fully inside the Xbox ecosystem, never touching Windows itself. Exiting out to Windows will be for those who want to access games traditionally not available on Xbox, including PlayStation games on Steam, mouse and keyboard games like League of Legends, or classic games from GOG and the like. And he mentions how you could play PlayStation games purchased via Steam. You'd also be able to play World of Warcraft and so on and so forth. So for those who have not seen my thoughts on the Xbox Ally X, which I've been playing for a while now, I have to say personally that that thing out of the box is terrible. I think the actual playing experience is fine. It's a very powerful device, and that's what I'd expect for $1,000. But for what was marketed as like the unification of Windows and Xbox, and it's really a game changer, and it feels more like a gaming device where you don't have to see Windows, I see a lot of Windows in that device constantly, and that Xbox full screen experience needs a ton of work if it's going to be the future of Xbox, which is, for those who watched that video, know how I reviewed the device from that angle, because I already said I was not going to pay $1,000 for that thing since I already have my handheld PC space taken care of. But I was lucky enough to be sent a retail unit by Xbox to check out for myself, and yeah, if that's the future of the Xbox ecosystem, which has been leaked multiple times, it needs a lot of work coming out of the box. The fact that I was sitting there for like 2 hours just playing The Outer Worlds 2 and just watching this thing update in the meanwhile is terrible. That's not a great start to a gaming experience. I get that once you get to the gaming, this thing is fine, but there's little issues that I think are just back-end problems. For example, if you want to have your Microsoft Store library show up in the Xbox app, if you have installed and owned checked off, it won't show up. But if you uncheck installed and then just leave owned checked, then your whole library will be there. It's a really weird way to categorize and filter it, and it looks like it's just not working. Even in the Xbox full screen experience, I'll get a ton of Windows pop-ups like, hey, this is ready to be updated. As you all saw and got a good kick out of, yeah, the device updates a ton of crap. Even when I click just update the Xbox app, I was updating everything from my calculator to my clock. It was unbelievable. At the end of the day, I get they're trying to make it a PC with console appeal, so I imagine it'll launch with these things, but I want that like it's being told to me here. out of the way. Unless I decide to dive into there, I don't want to see any of it. Obviously, the big mystery in the terms of money making is you sell this type of PC unit if you're Xbox. I think they need to make a profit on it because there's the chance that you buy this thing and you just only play Steam games. And I get Xbox will get a cut of, hey, if we're selling games on Steam and you happen to buy one of those from us as a publisher, we'll make some money off of you still. But for the most part, Xbox benefited from when you're in their ecosystem directly and buying everything from like the Microsoft store, that like they got their nice 70-30 cut, or if it's their exclusive, they get the full pie. Like that sort of stuff being gone and them running a sustainable console business, I don't know how those two really work well together. But easily my biggest complaint with the Ally was the Windows experience on it. I just want it out of my sight, an opt-in thing, and when I'm opting into it, it's not this headache of a process. So we'll see. But ultimately, yeah, it's a PC. It's a PC with a console skin. But the big question as well with the Xbox Ally going into this next generation is a lot of people noticing like most of my console library isn't on this device. That was another huge bummer. And so unless you're an Xbox Play Anywhere title, a lot of your library was abandoned with the Ally. This is another thing Xbox really needs to figure out. And with that rumored Xbox showcase coming up, it's going to have a bunch of Play Anywhere titles, according to Jez Corden. So we can look forward to seeing what developers are opting into the program. But right now, it's so few. And as I've talked about with companies like Square Enix, where they're like, here's Final Fantasy VII Remake, here's Final Fantasy 16, they're Play Anywhere, but Tactics wasn't. It's that moment of like, okay, this thing is inconsistent. And it's kind of like how a lot of Japanese support formerly was for the console, where you just didn't know who would show up and when. So a lot of people went with PlayStation because it was just more of a guarantee. It didn't become a headache. But obviously the big question mark, at least for me, was like, what about 360 games? Those are in my library. What about original Xbox games? Those are in my library. How will they figure those out? Will it be done via cloud streaming? Will there be a form of emulation? Will you actually get a SKU onto the device that I can download? Well, Jez writes, furthermore, thanks to a new silicone from AMD, the new Xbox will also run games currently available on the Series X and S library. That means all the OG Xbox back-compatible games, all the Xbox 360 back-compatible games, all the Xbox One back-compatible games, and all the current and future Xbox Series X and S games. These games will run natively on the new Xbox and launch seamlessly via the Xbox Launcher's library. Like any new console generation, developers will likely continue supporting the Xbox Series X and S development environment for several years after the new Xbox drops in. Over time, more and more games will get their next-gen Xbox native versions too, targeting specific configuration therein. AI-powered technology like auto super resolution and next-gen frame generation will also boost Xbox Series X and S games running on the new hardware. But developers will also have the option to target the new box directly with Play Anywhere versions and Xbox's smart delivery tech. New technology Microsoft is developing alongside the fixed nature of the hardware should eliminate a lot of the inconveniences that sometimes come with PC gaming. Things like compiling shaders, etc. shouldn't be an issue on the new Xbox. For example, Microsoft is also working on additional ways to reduce Windows overhead to benefit all PC gamers, Xbox or not. The compiling shaders was another big problem, of course, with the Xbox Ally. It's something that the Steam Deck doesn't really have a major issue with because a lot of these updates can be pulled from Valve's own servers. And so a lot of times that's just handled on the back end for you. And you just don't think about it when you fire it up. I would say that was like issue number 2 on my list. There's nothing worse than just firing up a game and then just seeing you're going to be waiting for like 5 minutes and putting the device down to go like microwave some food or to go do something really quickly. Like when I sit down for a gaming session, I just want to do that. I just want to sit down for a gaming session. So that's issue number 2 they're targeting. That sounds great. That was to be expected. The interesting part, of course, is the library here. It's like, okay, OG Xbox all the way to the Series generation games are going to be here. My big question, it's not really mentioned here, it just says you can launch them from the library, but are these installable? Are these streamable? You know, is that their solution? Like if I want to play Blinks the Time Sweeper, come on. Let me pull out the GOAT. Hold on. If the GOAT wants to get fired up in 2027, can I fire him up via an install? Or is Blinks the Time Sweeper going to have to be streamed? That's the big question for me. Because again, if this new Xbox is like a PC, is there going to be a SKU that I can literally install? And does that mean that like this game in Back Combat is available for sale? We did see a lot of movement behind the scenes as I've been documenting and covering for the last couple of years now of like a lot of Activision licensed games just suddenly popping up. Transformers getting relisted, TMNT getting relisted, Spider-Man getting relisted, Marvel Ultimate Alliance getting relisted, getting taken down. So these games maybe can come back. I think that would provide a great surge of excitement for a lot of Xbox fans if we saw a new injection of titles into that back-compat library, if you want to call it that. The article continues on. Right now, I'm told the current plan is for the next Xbox specifically to have no paywall for multiplayer. It wouldn't make a lick of sense for a PC to have paid multiplayer, particularly since it would create a strong incentive for players to simply install Steam instead of using the Xbox ecosystem on that device for online games. It remains to be seen if that plan actually plays out into reality, though. So there's a little bit of room for doubt on that, and I think this is something that just the console space is so behind on. Like, it definitely took advantage of, like, I think all of us at one point or another. When I was not playing on PC and I was intimidated by that environment, like, paying online to play with my friends was normal. You're looking at the guy who happily paid for EA's online passes for the 360. I remember playing Mass Effect 3 multiplayer and I had to pay for that online pass, and I happily did so. That was the standard. They totally took advantage of the ignorance, but people now know, based on how gaming has grown so dramatically, it's like, oh, I don't have to pay monthly to play online over there. That's how it should be. And so Xbox leading the charge on that in the console space, we'll call it, is a really good sign, because I think that is the type of competition you look for, because hopefully that puts some pressure on PlayStation to remove their payment structure for multiplayer gaming. So that's the report from Jez Corden. Gives us a lot to look at. And how is Xbox already starting to frame this thing? Well, I can just say before we dive into all of this, that they are no doubt, with the way they're talking about it, teeing up a reveal possibly as soon as the Game Awards this year, because we did get the Series X reveal at the Game Awards when the new generation was about to begin. But also next year is the 25th anniversary of Xbox. Like, within this next year, we are going to see this new piece of hardware get revealed to the public. I think Xbox wants to kind of set the tone for themselves. And so that gets into a set of interesting comments from executives all across Xbox. The big three were out and taking interviews. This first one's with Matt Booty. Pure Xbox has the quote. He says, "We are all seeking to meet people where they are. Our biggest competition isn't another console. We are competing more and more with everything from TikTok to movies." There's a couple of quotes in here that I think are more admittance of defeat rather than an actual business strategy, and they're just trying to make their situation work for themselves. I am of the camp that looks at this and goes, I get it. I get it, man. Like, I try to avoid Reels or TikTok or all those things, but even I sometimes get like sucked into that world, and suddenly you just like burn half an hour. And like, we live in this world of instant gratification. We live in this world of constant content where like a lot of it's great. You look at these last couple of months and all the games have come out. And if you love video games, especially like September was popping off, everything from Chronos to Trails to Borderlands 4 to some extent, although my love of that game has fallen off a little bit. But there's been a lot of awesome stuff, high and low. Hell Is Us. I just reviewed The Outer Worlds 2. I think that's fantastic. Like, there's been great stuff everywhere. It's not hard to find good stuff. It's kind of just about what you're in the mood for. And in a luxury hobby like gaming, you're either very selective about those games you pick up. And I imagine the business owners of a entertainment company focusing on this like luxury hobby understand that like they need to give you something that competes for your time, because the money is likely already set to be spent somewhere. They just want to earn your specific dollar. So yes, there is a little bit of like the ability to point and laugh at Xbox and be like, yeah, like you kind of shot yourself in the foot enough times where like PlayStation no longer can be your competition because they have outpaced you 2 generations in a row, 2-1, almost 3-1 now with console sales. So yeah, like it's a complete stomp out by PlayStation and in turn Nintendo as well. Xbox, whether they want to say it out loud or not, is still competing with these companies. They would rather you spend more money on their hardware rather than PlayStation's or Nintendo's. And if it was going that way, I don't think they'd be saying any of this. At the same time, though, they do have to be wary of how there's just kids growing up who only know the swiping experience. That's all that they know. They don't know what many of us who are watching these videos and talking about games constantly know, which is just like growing up, buying your games, finding them in like Circuit City. Remember that place? Like, you know, it's just the way people consume entertainment is different. Like growing up on streaming apps and just all my content's there in a library. I've always argued that gaming's a very different beast and that we should not bend our hobby and our business model to what others expect of it to be, but rather stay with what it is, which is this kind of premium quality, pay once, get your experience type of industry. But again, just line must go up has destroyed a lot of that, as we'll talk about in a separate video. Meanwhile, Sarah Bond was interviewed by Mashable, and she had some key quotes coming out of that too, in fact, that I wrestle with a bit. One was when asked about what was going on with the Xbox Ally, she said, the next Xbox console is going to be a very premium, very high-end curated experience. You're starting to see some of the thinking we have in this handheld, but I don't want to give it all away. So, yeah, I mean, I've been trying to set the table in the conversations we've had about this next Xbox that this device, whatever this next Xbox is called, will be expensive. Like, I'm expecting $1,000 plus. And I have already the image in my head of PlayStation completely undercutting that, where you could buy their console and all their launch games, and it still won't be as much as the console alone for Xbox. And I'm curious how low they can get that price, because if Xbox can make the price competitive with a great feature set and, of course, great launch games, that could be a win. But Xbox also isn't embracing exclusives, as we'll talk about in a moment here, and that is like one of the big things about the launch lineup. If I can get all of my Xbox launch games on PlayStation, who is also doing their own set of launch games, then why would I buy an Xbox? Because it's more powerful. I think we're at the point now where people care more about art style and frame rate rather than pure fidelity. But that gets into the second quote here from GameSpot. Same interview, though. Exclusive games are antiquated, Xbox president says. The biggest games in the world are available everywhere. You look at Call of Duty, you look at Minecraft, you look at Fortnite, you look at Roblox. That's actually what's driving community in gaming. That's where people gather, and the idea of locking it to one store or one device is antiquated for most people. You want to be able to play with your friends anywhere, regardless of what they're on, and we're really leaning into this experience. It just opens up another way for you to play, as does cloud, as does PC, as do the consoles we all have in the living room. Okay, I'm going to sound mean. I'm sorry. Bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, I look at Nintendo and the sales of Pokemon ZA, which that game is horrendous. And I'm like, no, it's bullshit, dude. Like, these companies, it's not even gaming. Look at, like, Netflix, right? Like, Netflix has exclusive shows. HBO Max has exclusive shows. I'll go a step further. Let's look at the sporting world. Fox, like, you can get their Fox One subscription. Or if you don't have that, you have to sign up for cable. And then all these different networks compete for these games. Like, some wild card games during the baseball playoffs were on ESPN. Some of the Division series was over on Fox. Some was on FS. Content drives the entertainment industry far and wide beyond gaming. So why is it all of a sudden for video games, this is just not the case anymore? After over 20 years of it being that way for Xbox, suddenly it's just not. It's because, as we'll talk about, the 30% profit margin. You can't make that type of insane profit margin if you are selling a one device. But as I've said before, if enough money, like if there's such concept in your brain as enough money, which clearly for a company like Microsoft isn't, you develop this type of thinking. It's antiquated to run entertainment businesses the way they've been ran the whole time. Exclusive business offers are what drive people through your door versus others. Like, even movie theaters offer, like, hey, AMC offers like a ticket pass, so I get X amount of tickets, so I go watch more movies at AMC than other theaters like Cinemax. It just pisses me off because I see people drink the Kool-Aid on this, and I'm like, I get it. I get what people are trying to say here. If you're a developer, you want everyone to play your games. There's no denying that. I say that like I'm working on a thing. I want everyone to play it. Like, I know that feeling. But also, I look at the business side of things and the sustainability of it. I'm like, we've done it for a certain way for a long while. Are we really sure that when everybody within our own industry and everybody outside of our own industry is doing it a certain way, that it's just suddenly wrong? So part of my crash out, but like I read this and I'm like, it's bullshit, dude. Like I look at Nintendo sales. I look at how Ghost of Yote's budget was about the same as Ghost of Tsushima, and Ghost of Yote is selling really well. So these games are finding success on singular platforms. And not only that, but you get 100% of the cut. It's not like the 70-30 split or whatever special publisher deals are made behind closed doors. I don't know. But I just look at that stuff and I'm just like, you can't just look me in the face and be like, yeah, this is antiquated. I get it, but that's like Satya Nadella, Amy Hood speak right there. And Sarah Bond's just doing her job, unfortunately. So those are my thoughts on everything going on with Xbox. Overall, the new vision for the next generation feels like a lot of adjustments to what the Xbox Ally X missed dramatically. And so on that level, I'm like, okay, cool. Like that would be interesting to me. Do I understand how Xbox is going to make money if I'm buying most of my games on Steam? Because my Steam library is way bigger than my Xbox library. I have no idea. Is the Xbox ecosystem going to support more retro games, like more back compat games, so I don't go to GOG constantly because they have a great retro gaming setup that allows me to own those games DRM free? Like, is Xbox going to figure that out for me? I don't know. We'll see. But like on the whole, I mean, I love my PC. And so as someone who owns a PC, is Xbox going to make their ecosystem competitive enough to make me want to invest in their console experience, if you will? We'll see. Again, a lot of we'll see. Time will tell, but I don't think we'll have to wait long to find out. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.